And here we go. Recording is up. So hi and welcome to SUSE QE Tools Workshop on this day. What did we have planned? Let me see. I would like to share my screen showing the workshop topics. Yep. So today we would like to look into containers or a 5-minute solution of how to run openQA in 5 minutes, all in one container. And what I'm doing for that, I'm going to the openQA documentation and looking installation, which is linked from here, which is also linked from here. And it starts with container-based setup. So that's already a change since maybe you have taken a look into the documentation some time ago. And now it's a bit turned around. So that one is featured first. Because what we think is the easiest and quickest way to spawn a single instance of a complete openQA instance, single command. You can just use this command line. So I can do that, but what it will do, it will forward 2 ports on our local computer and then start something on those ports, I assume. So for that, I have a shell met session shared here. Let me see, can I in like this, that readable? Yeah, should work. And if I paste in, then what this thing will do is, so it will start script. You can see that looking up the system, here it's Tumbleweed, but that can also start on a different base. And we are installing some additional packages within, which is pretty quick. It's only a subset of packages that we need depending on what we look up dynamically. And then start and Postgres database within there. And then we the problem down there. Sorry about that. Let's check if the new version already has fixed. So this will take some seconds to download a new version, which should have arrived in factory, but I don't know. So that was a bug that was just, entered recently, and if that doesn't work, then I also have a workaround.
Only I can confirm it works. I run the same command and I ended up in like
Cool.
registered and connecting.
Yeah. So let me see if I can reproduce that.
A small question, maybe. Why did you choose the solution of single container? I mean, one container running multiple daemons.
Yes. We chose that because that offers that we have a single command line, and on the user system it just runs a single container. So for just starting to just have something that is workable, that we figured is the solution. However, and good that you ask that, we have just the next section details how, for example, we are using separate web UI and worker control. So that's perfectly possible. And also the solution to go for example, if you want to like run the web UI on one host and then maybe run independently some worker containers on the same hosts, maybe on another host. So that's not a problem. All right, so this is starting up. Same as in before, is starting. It is installing some additional packages. It also installs Audience Distri OpenSUSE depths. So if you want to work with the OpenSUSE distribution, you have all dependencies there right away and the test. So where we had been. This is starting Postgres container, and then it's installing and starting up the openQA web UI. So we have multiple listen statements. And then what it does, it actually establishes a connection from a worker to that web UI by creating using API credentials. Now the last line that we have here says registered and connected by WebSocket with openQA host, localhost, and worker ID 1. I think what we can do as a convenience is down here provide a message that says something like now go to something like https localhost 1443. Work. So fine, let's use the HTTP variant, and that one immediately. So that's the instance that we just spawned here. Can we log in? Yeah, we can log in. By default, that's using the fake authentication. And I'm running through that wizard. I understood the basic concept. And I can go to workers. Then I will be able to find that there is actually already a worker, which is in container, which is up and running, and it's default emu worker class from that. Right. So, yep. Basically, that's where we wanted to come. Pavel?
So is it, well, it's using QEMU, right? So the host system needs to have KVM module in kernel, and that's basically it.
Right. So I didn't forward that, and then let's first try to see how we can actually schedule a test and see how that
Okay.
behaves,
Okay.
and then afterwards we can look in. So let's see. Now, honestly, I haven't tried that out, so we have to work on that together. And for that, let me see. So I'm sharing a teammate session, and in this web interface, I don't know if I can switch to terminals. So I will keep that container running. And what I'm doing here is I'm starting. Nope, that's not this one. So I'm using now Hotman PS, and you can see that we have that instance running. Okay, and now let's try Hotman X hot something. Can I start a bash? I think I do this, then yeah, now I'm in an active session in that container. And if I list up processes, then we can see that worker and right. So now let's see. If I call openQA CLI and then API and then jobs, then it's telling me that there are currently no jobs, but it did just connect to the same local instance. Now let's post a job or start a job. So let's just do that. And then the IPR tells us test field mandatory. Okay, so let's give it a test field. Test my new shiny ID 1. So it started a test. And now if we go to that anymore, we go to here, then we see that there's already one test, my new shiny test. And obviously that's missing a lot of things like the schedule and all those things. And we can try now. I'm using not the also distri openSUSE, but I'm also I'm using a more simpler one also because that's much more lightweight and easier to start, but in the same principle applies. So I want to use also distri example. Let me just use another concept here so we can also see that in the GitHub Actions. we start test here with openCLI schedule and monitor. So I want to use the same. So I'm using schedule. I'm not supplying host or API key because that's local already. And but what I want to no, I need to check out the distribution. Okay, let's do it slightly different case here. I can just point that to the GitHub repository, right? If we do that, and then I'm taking a look on how does job 2 look like. There was a pretty option for API. How? Yep.
Oli, would you mind sending that link to in the chat maybe?
The link to this test distribution.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So feel welcome to try that out. Right now I'm trying to adjust window bigger. No, I can't because I see what I'm doing here. I'm connected to my teammate session from another window, which is small. So let's drag around windows.
I have a question.
Yep.
No, here you are using KSDR to inject an example of a test repository.
Yes.
But I can see it like, I mean, I see this concept like a good development environment. Is it possible to like forward your local repository from the machine where you are starting the Podman container?
Yes. So openQA stores everything under varlib openQA, right? So and there would be tests, but here that's empty because we didn't supply anything. What you can do is you can check out something there, or with a container you can forward a local directory here. So we can do that. I just wanted to show one thing at a time. There's a setup failure source directory shared test. Let's see if I can get that to work. So we also have that example in here, which we can use for this distribution. Say needles here. This scheduling and test. And this is running. Actually, you can also take a look here. I don't want to put the number here, so I'm just writing latest because there is no other test than the one that I'm looking into. So that works. It says boot and uploading, and now it's passed. And if you take a look, then it actually booted the system, at least up to the point where it tries to boot something. I mean, we didn't supply an ISO, we didn't supply a QCOR file, we didn't supply anything. Network boot. But this is what the test expects. So we have a green pass, and we're all good, right? Now, what are the next things that you want to try? So let's do one thing first. Let's check here in Audoin's log about KVM. And if I take a look for KVM, then there's nothing about KVM. So, I mean, the test finished quickly, but it actually was using QEMU machine emulation. So it wasn't using hardware acceleration. So how would we fix that? That we can do, as far as I know, about 2 different ways. It says KVM doesn't work, but this is like when you run it on the machine. So let's assume that KVM does work on my host machine, but this is not passed into the container. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm importing that container. It's saying stopped. Let's check, is that actually this web UI? Yep, it's that web UI. So that's stopped as it. And now what we can do is we can pass devices and directories. And actually, Michele, you asked about a local test distribution. So I have that here in my OS audience folder. You can see, for example, I have OS audience distri example here. So let's do both steps together now. And what I'm doing is I'm using the -v parameter of Podman, same for Docker. And now I can pass a local file. So I can pass dev kvm into the system, and I can pass OS auto inst into varlib openqa share I do that in test yeah, shared, yeah, varlib
Is it
openqa.
OS autoinst or OS autoinst example?
No, I'm passing the parent directory into there,
Okay.
and then there
Okay.
should be a subfolder also audience history example. So let's try that, and I'm making that read only. I might need that linked to example. I mean, I don't mind that shortcut. So let's just do that. So two things that I added. I'm trying to pass in dev kvm device, and I'm passing in a local directory into a varlib openqa share test, but read only. So, you know, anything in the container may not change what I have locally. I just want to use that for execute, right? So Alvaro asking any particular reason for using openqa CLI from within the container. It should also work from outside with host, localhost, right? Yeah, that's a good point. We could try that. I mean, what we need is obviously the credentials, but we can look those up in the web UI. Let's just start the web UI into container again, and then we can see what happens. Yeah, but in the meantime, I mean, obviously I lost my shell here, but what I can also try here is that I mean, there are different ways to look up the container ID. I guess I can also, for the sake of some fun, reference, oops, that Cranky Wilbur. Cranky Wilbur. And then I'm using openqa CLI directly. So does that work? Yep. So I'm using openqa CLI, or what Alvaro and Pablo mentioned, I can use an openqa CLI that I would have installed on my system, if you have that installed on the system, and then execute it from the outside. I'm just using the very same from the container because I'm assuming that in that environment you also don't have openqa CLI installed, right? But you're absolutely right that this is independent. And by the way, we also do have a separate container for the openqa client if you want. And one more option, you can just use curl and authenticate with a single URL and post your command there. So we have lots of options. But let's see. So we established a new session. Let's see if that loads again. Yep, it does. Can we log in? Yep, it can. Can we see a worker? Yep. Different number because absolutely that is a this is a new instance. So that's also meaning that, you know, this is actually a new worker. So this is why we don't have any of the previous results here. But now let's say we want API post jobs test, new test, and then case here equals that. And in that case, I'm using the embedded needles directory in there. And if I do that, I'm honestly not sure if that automatically picks up the KVM device. I would say it's trying to do something. Yep, fail to initialize KVM is a directory. Okay, so what did I do wrong? Right, Jose, good question. So what am I doing? Why do you need KSD if you have added a volume of your local test copy? Right, that's what we wanted to do. Sorry about that. So in that case, we have passed in that local KSD, right? So what we can just do is this, for example. Did that work? I don't know. That says incomplete. Yeah, I guess for the same reason. Failed to initialize KVM is a directory, so I think at this point it doesn't even try to read the test distribution. It says operation not per message, message. You know what? There are different alternatives. Let me try if in def KVM. If I replicate that and say def KVM, that works. I haven't tried that out recently.
Don't you need a privileged container? You want to access the device there outside.
Or that, and I thought that would be an alternative, but maybe I need that.
Yeah, minus privilege, right?
Yeah. We'll see.
Why the init script of the container is installing something using zipper? Isn't that something that should be done in the boot service?
Thank you.
Yes. I don't know why we have it like that. As I stated, most of it is installed anyway.
In essence, for the sake of
yeah.
making the development environment faster, you're treating a container like a lightweight VM that you can just create faster.
Right.
So with that mentality, I can understand the reasoning, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say it's possible to improve that. Pretty sure it is, right? Because the thing is, what we are doing here is we are using the bootstrap script that we're also using for setting up an instance in an already existing environment, right? So that's also possible. Okay, yeah, so I was doing it wrong with passing the device. Then let's just do it one more time by privileged and then device, and then I guess I don't need that second parameter, right, like this. And then I would, nope. Then I would just post that new job just referencing that local test distribution, okay? Okay, not ready yet. Yeah, right now the worker is running as well. You can check that. That's the latest test that is currently running. You can see it booting up. Just wait some seconds for that to run into the timeout boot attempts. Then I would say that should suffice for now. After that, I would like to show you actually the Docker file that we use the build template, and then you can bring forward all your awesome idea for improving that, because I'm pretty sure that there are multiple points for improving that. And then as well, I would like to make the alternatives. Okay. So did I? Yeah, I failed to pass in the needles directly. However, that's not really important, because the relevant part is now that we have automatically that line enable KVM. And as we have seen in before, if KVM is detected but not permitted to be used, then the job aborts. So we can be sure that this job was using hardware acceleration. Then about the test distribution directory, we can see that it's saying starting boot test boot. So it definitely found tests. It hasn't found the needles, but that doesn't matter here. And also if we take a look into the vast JSON file, that we can see that this one is just using a relative case there. That means that is relating to the project, to the tests directory within the project here. So varlib openQA share test and then this name. Okay, and that's the local directory that we had. If we would change that, then we can use that for development. Also, the one with the question for Chris.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, but
Okay. So it's yeah, I mean this is great. I mean you're basically putting everything in an isolated environment, so you don't need to install anything locally. I have a question about the openQA environment itself. So every time you spawn this container, of course you have a fresh openQA UI without any job groups or anything. Is there a way to have some kind of persistence of this configuration? So can
right.
you add a
Yeah.
volume so you can keep the
Okay.
configuration?
Yes. So as I mentioned, let's go back again to where we say single instance container. The easiest, quickest way to spawn a single instance is with that command. What do we have with that command? With that command, by default, as is, we have a fresh everything. That means that this doesn't store anything. And as we can see, we can just spawn tests anyway. So for which environment would that be suitable? Well, that would be suitable for just trying out and experimenting. It is also suitable if you really want to cross-check, like, I definitely want something that is clean and has nothing in it, because maybe you're debugging a problem with openQA and you're wondering where a certain setting might come from, right? Then this would really help, because you know for sure that there's nothing in the file system or nothing in the database that would be injected somewhere and you don't know where it comes from. The next thing that we already did is, of course, we passed in KVM. That's suggested if you want to use KVM accelerated chemo testing. But if you maybe want to use, connect a different worker anyway, which you can do while this is running, you can connect a worker from the outside. Let's say your bare metal test. That would work. If you want to export that instance to the outside, that is just what was answered already in the chat. Thank you for that. You can export that with a container so that others would be able to see that, or maybe you want to run it on another machine. You want to exit from your local notebook or anything. We saw how we could pass in just with the mount parameters a test distribution, which includes needles. That's no problem. How about other things to pass in? Well, what we could do is we could pass in an etc openQA directory. And with the etc openQA directory, you can also configure an external database connection. So I haven't tried it out, with this container, but we know with our other container variants, that's certainly possible. What you can do is here, there is the database file. And that one just says, use that local data, right?
But
So,
Oliver,
yeah.
It will, yes, the openQA in the container will then use your external database, but there will be still empty, lonely little database running in the container, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So you would have that internal database, which doesn't really harm it. Sort of, it's just taking away a bit of memory. But you can pass in an external database, which could come from another container where you want to have persistent settings. Okay. And along with the persistent settings of the database, then I recommend to also pass in varlib openQA share from a consistent external place so that test results would be preserved there. What would happen if you have a database that has openQA results and then there's no local test directory? Well, that would work. It just, on this slide here, it would show empty boxes because the database contains information that there were results and what is the overall result, so that's all fine, but you can't see all the details like screenshots, and there would be no log files and such, but it would still work. The other way around, unfortunately, not so much. So if you just have the test results directory but not the database, then there's no easy way to inform openQA to reconstruct everything. Again, if you want to split out web UI and workers, then you can do that. You can start separate containers. What about certificates? We also mentioned that example. So for example, you want to pass in certificate and key files plus the openQA ini file, then you can do that. Then you have, like maybe not self-signed certificates, but something that is valid from the outer scope. And as I mentioned, you can use the client which is available in the web UI container, or in our case, in the single instance container. But the same also works with an external openQA CLI, comes from its own container, or maybe just your standard OpenSUSE installation that you use from the outside. Let me show you how we define that container, or actually how we build it first. Okay, so we have our main development project, which is devel openQA. This is where we build openQA, and you can see that there are multiple container definitions next to it. For example, there are also some which are more low level, ISO to video, which you might have seen already here. Also different workflows, have ISO to video, and that one is using just those containers, which is more low level, quicker, more bare bone. It's just executing the test, doesn't care about the web UI or database or anything. The same is actually also done within OS Audience History openSUSE to just evaluate if the schedule is correct. So it's starting up ISO to video, it's starting up, and then it's showing up if that works. Now back to the container that we were just using. That's the openQA single instance container. And you can see what we do there is that we download that Docker file in a service from our openQA GitHub repository. So this is the file which we develop in here, single instance, and then Docker file. So multiple labels and prefixes, a bit of reinstalling some packages, as you can see in the comment, installing more of packages that are selected in openQA Bootstrap, because openQA Bootstrap is actually just a script that we call. Finding here saves installation time, meaning if we do that here, then we don't need to redo that in the openQA Bootstrap script. We still do some things in the openQA Bootstrap script, so we can think about, you know, skipping that installation step in openQA Bootstrap completely in the container case and optimize that. So that can help. So as you can see, in essence, this container is just starting the openQA Bootstrap script. Now the openQA Bootstrap script, this is also mentioned here in the installation guide, quickly bootstrapping under OpenSUSE. So if you have a clean user system, you can just do the equivalent without needing the shallow interface of a container in the middle, if that's desired, just using the openQA Bootstrap. If you have like a recent tumbleweed or leap, then you can just call zipper in openQA Bootstrap, call that, and then the very same is done, which is spawning up a web UI, local database, and a worker and connect all. By the way, openQA Bootstrap also supports the same parameters that clone job does. So what I could have done immediately is spawned a single instance and say I want to clone from any existing instance a job, assuming that the test data would be available here. So that example, like from openQA SUSE.org with a more recent job number, actually would not work directly unless I specify with Casedia, the git checkout, or I pass in with the -v parameter into the container that local test distribution. Yep, go on.
Maybe I don't know if it will be part of the presentation, but can we make a small like simple test that's something that boots that we can check with a single container openQA, like a sample test or something?
Yeah, right. Good point. Let's do that. With there's a we could try that with the example distribution. Actually, let me try out another pretty minimal distribution, which is the OS order inst included distribution. If I would know how I can pass in a sub, because we have that. Yeah, okay, never mind. Let's just do what we had. We still have this. And then I'm passing in ISO under URL. And then this. Would this work? No, if it's raw, I guess I need to apply that raw URL or something. You know, otherwise it shows me the GitHub page.
That ISO URL is in the dist3 or in?
That's actually in OS audience because we use that to testing ourselves. I mean, we could just pass in a QCOW image from Lee micro something, or you know, any of those parameters would work. So we'll have latest here. Let's see what happens. Ah, right, host. Yeah. So that is not on the pass list. That's unfortunate. I would need to change the.
What was the, why does it fail?
So it doesn't allow to randomly download stuff from the internet. What I can do, let's see.
But who does not allow?
OpenQA doesn't allow to do that.
Okay.
So do I have Vim? No, I don't have Vim. I don't need Vim. Do I have?
You can install it.
Yeah, of course. Can. How is that Oh, download domains, right? So let's try. Download domain something something, and I don't know if there was a space or not, with download domains equals, and now let's try github.com openQA openSUSE or download open. Maybe that. And now, how do I restart the openQA web UI in here? I have no hub. So that's the Apache proxy, and I just need, oh, I guess it doesn't show up directly. Interesting. Don't have.
So apparently, oh no, sorry, no, my bad, misread.
So one of those web UI. Let me just try it out.
Should be like openQA minus web UI minus daemon.
Yep, but I would like to stop. Let's just try with 356. So, nope, UI doesn't show up. Yeah, that was some process, but not web UI because it's still responding. Then what happens if I do this? Oh, interesting. Then I don't know, 3 to 4. It doesn't actually have an effect.
Also,
Okay, let's try something different then. So I'm stopping the web UI and I'm passing in a local openQA ini file into etc openQA ini. And then before I do those changes, I'm allowing in here download, yep, download domains this and GitHub the open source, I don't know. And now if I start the web UI again, it should pick up that local file, but like okay, yeah. It's a subfolder like this. Okay. So guys mentioned another example. That's a direct download URL. Let's see if I can put that in as HTTP under URL like this. Device or resource busy. Why? Do you still have it open?
No, I got the same issue. I think it's just trying to overwrite that file with some content instead.
And I can't do that if I pass in the single file. So maybe if I pass in the directory, might work. But maybe I have something in my local conflicting. We will see. So, you know, it becomes more and more experimental and playing around with things. The thing is, I wanted to give you that starting point. So if anybody says like, can I just run openQA and run a single test? Then the answer is yes, you should be able to do that within 5 minutes. And that's the most important thing. About all the other things, as I said, there are points for improving. So for example, if you have some good ideas that we can do in the Docker file or in the openQA Bootstrap script or anywhere else to improve that, then requests would be very welcome, as well as your ideas if you want to. So let's still try that. Yeah, thank you. So if I do, oops, no, not that. Come on. So I'm not that used to this HTTP based bash, but it's, yeah. So I'm still passing in that local example distribution and a URL. Let's see if it does download that one. And then if we still follow the link to latest, then it's as running, but it didn't pick up part. Why not? Oh, maybe I need to pass it in a different way. I mean, it should have downloaded that first. That's something that I would need to check into. Anyway, I think I would like to stop here. So I just like to give you some room. So do you have further ideas or like something that we should change or something that could be improved here, something that we're doing wrong?
For sure, the initialization script can be improved because
Yep.
it's trying to overwrite config files, and config files are meant to be only read-only.
Yep.
About having separate containers, I guess if you think about it like as isolated VM or a lightweight VM, it makes sense to have a single container with everything. If you think in a containerized world, yeah, you need one container per process pretty much.
Yeah, right.
Yes, but from my point of view, looking at this one like a development environment, I like the fact that it is only one container. No?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for something quick, it's really nice.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you all for your feedback, and more is always welcome. So with that, we're at the end of this topic. Ending here. An outlook, what we will be doing in the upcoming meeting is that in the next week, we will have an open conversation. So also what we want to do from time to time. So we just have a casual meetup, and you're welcome to join here with a beverage of your choice, and then you can, bring your problems forward, your experiences. Maybe we from our team have something to share. Maybe you have something to share. So looking forward to that. Until then, thank you, and yeah, then goodbye.